Darklings! So today I'm bringing up kind of an old topic which I've sort of covered a few times before, but this is just sort of a different take. Anyway, I've had a lot of people that'll ask clothing related questions. And that makes sense because I post pictures of what I'm wearing every single day. And I haven't worn the same thing twice in 10 years. And the main question I get is, how do you manage to not repeat an outfit in 10 years? And the simplest thing is mixing and matching, of course. Just because I wore this shirt with this dress today does not mean that I'll wear that exact same combination again. But I also cycle through my clothes. A lot of my clothes are very inexpensive. I get them from thrift stores. I get them from the Goodwill. I get them from the DI, which is Salt Lake's kind of version of Goodwill, which is Deseret Industries. And I cycle through my clothes all the time. But I get a lot of my clothing ideas from all the things that interest me, which I've mentioned before, but I haven't exactly explained that bridge. So, of course, as might be evidenced by the fact that I talk about art all the time, is I have an artist brain, and so I kind of look at things like an artist. And I got an artist brain because, one, I could not content myself with just being boring and just settling for what was immediately in front of me. I had to make things. I had to get some of the craziness that was here onto paper, into outfits, into the place that I live in, all that kind of stuff, because it's really loud in here and I need it out so that I can function. But on top of that, I took years and years of many art classes to help express that stuff. But for those of you who do not want to spend forever taking art classes, there are some things that you can do to kind of make your brain think like an artist brain. So based off of the psychology classes and all that psychobabble bullshit in high school and college, I am equally left and right brained. I really like logical patterns, I like numbers, but I also like the other stuff too. I don't really know how to explain it. So, for example, the outfit I'm wearing today, I kind of inspired off of kind of romantic poetry and starlit nights and moonlight and all these different things. And they're all abstract ideas, and getting an abstract idea into a concrete appearance is always kind of tricky to get from one step to the other. But usually you have to kind of break stuff down. That's kind of the biggest secret to drawing stuff too, is breaking stuff down into its simplest shapes. Because if you look at a human face and like, I'm just going to draw that, a lot of times you're not going to have a lot of success unless you look at it as shapes. For example, the circles and cheekbones and in the nose and the kind of circles in the eyes and the flat planes here and there. A lot of times when you're drawing a face, you want to break it into its simplest components. Same with an outfit, same with any other kind of drawing. When you're breaking something down, it makes it a lot easier to approach something. So with this outfit, I'm wearing a flowy, sparkly thing that's like half of a skirt that I layered over the top of the dress, and wore this sparkly shirt thing underneath the dress, because layering and mixing and matching layers is super helpful for creating new looks. But when it comes to finding jewelry and putting accessories in with stuff, accessories can make or break things and can kind of drive the point home. I spend a lot of time on Amazon, eBay, and Etsy, and that's pretty much where I find all the stuff that I buy online. Otherwise, in Salt Lake City, there's a thrift store I like to go to called Pibbs Exchange. There's another one called Iconoclad, which I have never been to, but I've heard great things about and will go eventually. I just keep forgetting. But you can kind of go into places that are like consignment stores, antique stores, vintage clothing stores, thrift stores, whatever. You can go in with an open mind and be like, okay, so I like this particular aesthetic thing that I saw in a movie once. So I watch a lot of fairy tale films, and I've been on a fairy tale research binge again. So reading a bunch of fairy tales, what are the things that I'll usually come across in fairy tales? I'll probably come across wolves, princesses, jewels, adventures, forests, strange artifacts, and stuff like that. And I kind of think about it and I'm like, okay, what is the everyday equivalent that I can incorporate into something that I would draw or something that I would wear? But sometimes you have to simplify the shit out of something in order to get it into a more approachable thing. I don't know how well I'm explaining this. But I also live in a house that is about 100 years old and filled with all kinds of fantasy inspired knickknacks that I don't need to have, I just like having. So I am a cluttered kind of person. Just because I organized all my art supplies down to the T does not mean that there's not way too many of them. I have racks of jewelry and I have all this stuff, and I usually will hoard stuff for years. I'll accumulate it slowly. I like going into antique malls in the giant cluttered mess of so much crap, some of which is really good if you just know where to look and kind of keep an open mind for stuff. Sometimes I will wake up like in the middle of the night with this totally crazy random thing that I like, and then I will type that in as a search term on Etsy. Like, I can't even remember how I found these earrings, but they did come off Etsy, as did these and these. But those are from 3 different shops on Etsy. But this one I found in a thrift store. This one I found in a metaphysical shop. And this one was a gift from a relative. Antique mall, antique mall, antique mall, birthday gift, thrift store, metaphysical shop, metaphysical shop. I think my aunt or my uncle or someone found this in New Mexico like 50 years ago. But it's really crazy how you can accumulate stuff if you keep yourself open to it and just sort of explore a little bit. And I keep hearing from people that the charity shops or thrift stores or whatever in their area are really, really shitty, but they still want to dress spooky and they don't have that much of a budget. The thing is, the number one step to dressing stereotypically goth is clothing that is black. Now, I don't make very much of my own clothes because I'm really impatient and almost broke my sewing machine after having it for a week because I have anger issues. But I like to modify stuff, and sewing by hand I think is really easy because I just do it so much, and I've done it since I was so little. It's just a simple back and forth motion. But sometimes you can look at something and you can try and see the potential. Know what size you are, look at something and think, okay, I like this one thing and I like this other thing. Can I turn this thing that I found into that? I get asked questions about how to dye clothes. I don't do that a whole lot because I haven't had a lot of luck with it. And more often than not, I'm just trying to go from one color to black. So I'll just put black dye in it and then hope that it gets something close to black, even if it isn't actually black. Most of what I've dyed have been nightgowns, and they are not an ideal material for dyeing. So they've turned usually some kind of blue or purple that I think looks interesting anyway. But not all goth clothing has to be black. It's just the preferred. Most of my clothes are black, but not all of them are. And plus, whenever I feel like I'm too dreary, I have my hair, this crazy nightmarish mess on top of my head that has 2-inch long roots right now. But I know this is a super scrambly mess, but the idea is when it comes to coming up with ideas, not just for your clothing, but for your art, don't limit yourself on whether or not you think you can or can't pull it off. Go for it anyway. It's okay if you fuck it up the first few tries. I can't draw just because one day I sat down and all of a sudden I was good at it. I draw every day. I've drawn every day since I was 5. I have permanent carpal tunnel, or at least tendon problems, and occasionally get stiffness in my elbow because I spend hours drawing. I've put thousands of hours into my drawing. Thousands of hours of me screaming at paper. I've crumpled a lot of shit up. I've burned paintings. I have thrown art supplies in the garbage out of spite and then cried because of how expensive they were. I've done all kinds of crazy, stupid stuff like that. So I hate when people tell me they can't be an artist. They just suck at it, because you don't have to be good at art in order to enjoy it. Sometimes sucking at it is fine. You just have to keep experimenting until you find the thing about it that you like doing. You don't have to be amazing at it and do photorealistic portraits. I don't do photorealistic portraits. I do stuff that's like sort of quasi-ish realistic because I have 10, 15 years of study behind it. And thousands of hours. But when it comes to the clothing stuff, the only reason why I post my outfit every single day is not because I look amazing. It's because I love hearing feedback that people got inspired from my outfits to try their own hands at things. That's the whole reason I post it, is so that you can see ideas of how you can put stuff together. because I have a lot of clothes that I occasionally get rid of and then get new stuff and mix and match stuff forever. I don't have the same wardrobe I had 2 years ago. I don't have the same wardrobe I had a year ago. At least a third of the pieces that I had a year ago, I have since taken into Pibbs Exchange and bought new things. I also accumulate stuff slowly, so there's also articles of clothing I've had since like 7th grade that I still, for some reason, have, even though I probably shouldn't and haven't fallen off my body into tatters yet. But sometimes you have to experiment a lot. And whenever people complain about not being able to find stuff in thrift stores, I do really recommend going into antique stores because I really love hokey, shitty, cheesy costume jewelry. Like the bracelets I'm wearing, I think cost somewhere between $1 and $2 a piece, and I got them from an antique mall. Sometimes you have to hunt through those little awkward spaces at antique malls where they have the jewelry racks, but they also have like these little bags of like junk jewelry. And if you have a pair of needle nose pliers and a couple of jump rings, you can make all kinds of pieces. I occasionally will clip stuff onto these hoops up here on the cartilage. I don't do that very often because cartilage piercings are the devil and took forever to heal. So I try and kind of experiment a lot because it's fun. A lot of times, if you cannot find something in your area, you can Google it. Just kind of think of an approximate descriptor and punch that shit into Google. That's how I've found all kinds of cool stuff before. Because I'm sure I can find 90 different versions of the same Mjolnir just off of Amazon alone. And probably for less than what I actually bought it for because I was supporting friends of mine. But just kind of play around with your look and experiment. And a lot of times you might fuck up. Just have faith in the outfit and it doesn't even matter. I look back on the stuff that I wore at the beginning of college, which was really heavily Victorian inspired. And at the end of high school into early college, I listened to a lot of Emily Autumn. And so I did corsets and bloomers and these big chunky boots and mismatched striped stockings and chokers and all this kind of stuff. But that was too direct of copying. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that I can branch out and do stuff that is more suited to me and less taking directly from someone else. If you steal just a teeny bit from a ton of people and mix it together in a way that's unique, then you're not really even stealing. You're just getting inspiration from everywhere around you. I'll get inspiration from stormy skies because I'll see softness and gray and all these different warm and cool tones in there. You have to kind of think with the artist side of the brain sometimes if you want to come up with cool things to wear. Sometimes you can just get away with getting cheap knockoff jewelry off of eBay out of China. Yeah, it'll take forever to get there, but it's also inexpensive and can look cool. And knowing that it costs very little when it falls apart, it sucks, but sometimes you cut your losses on it. I know I like to make stuff like flower crowns and hair pieces and stuff out of things that I bought at Michael's. I think that these roses actually fell off of a mini top hat I wore in high school, and the top hat just wasn't interesting me anymore. So I cut them off and stitched them onto hair clips and just use them as normal hair clips now. Because sometimes when your style changes, you like to take the old stuff, rip it apart, and make something new with it. Just keep experimenting with that stuff. It's really fun. And whenever people complain, well, I don't have the time for that. It's like, well, you don't have to dump tons of time into it. Maybe sometimes you do because it's a hobby or it relaxes you or it's fun. But you don't have to dump tons and tons of time into it. I've had outfits that, sure, I look at my closet forlornly for 3 hours, put on a couple of records, and finally figure out what to wear the next day. And other times I just kind of look at the closet, so I like this shirt today, and I like those shoes today. Now what goes with these two items, and what does my mood say? Now, in case it hasn't been abundantly obvious, I'm a very, very, very big movie fan. And I've watched somewhere between 1 and 7 movies a day for the last 8 years. So I know not everybody is quite that level. I don't expect it. But seeing all these different movies with all these different moods, color palettes, and appearances, and years, and all this stuff, that's a giant pool of ideas that I can get. I can even get ideas from nothing visual, just auditory, like soundtrack stuff. I like getting inspiration from nature, the thing that I love most and fear most. And so I like trees and leaves and flowers and branches and all this stuff because it's old. It's been there forever. It's primordial. It's The deep, dark woods are the place that we fear. Again, I've been reading a lot of fairy tales. But what comes out of the woods? You get birds, and you get maidens wearing red cloaks, and you get wolves, and you get hunters, and you get all these different aesthetics that you can kind of put together in your mind. No, you don't have to wear real fur. No, you don't have to wear real leather. But you can usually find imitation stuff, and even if it falls apart, you can get it pretty cheaply. And even if you only use it for 5 outfits, that's 5 outfits worth that you probably earned. I don't know. And every so often when I have the extra cash, I like splurging on artist-made stuff. I like getting independent, creative stuff because supporting other independent artists as an independent artist, I really like doing that when I can. Doesn't mean I can do it every day, but when I can do it, it's completely worth it because then I get something that's unique and I'm supporting someone else's vision and idea and creative outlet. It's totally mix and match kind of stuff. My whole point with this super rambly, I probably lost my point spiel, is that be creative, don't be afraid of fucking up. This is all stuff I've probably said before, but please don't stop trying to make stuff that makes you happy because sometimes happiness is in the little stupid shit. Like, my happiness today is in the fact that I'm wearing this stupid flowy thingy that's around my waist that I got caught in my car door twice this morning. So, it makes me happy. My tattoos make me happy. My piercings make me happy. My clothes make me happy. And that's way better than when I was thinking, well, it doesn't matter. Just find the tiniest, stupidest shit to make you happy. Even if it's your wardrobe, even if it's a sketchbook that's the size of a Post-it note that you keep in your bag, doesn't matter. Just draw, just experiment, just don't be afraid of fucking it up a little bit because you'll get there. It's all trial and error. Anyway, till next time, Darklings.